Welcome to the Business Podcast, the Northern Business Podcast, a regular discussion with people in the north of England who lead businesses. They employ people and they have new ideas. They help our economy grow. And our Northern Business Podcast is produced by Recognition PR. We serve scores of companies in different sectors across the country, some of which occasionally contribute. Now, this podcast is kindly sponsored by Virtue Motors, one of the top automotive retailers in the UK, has a network of dealerships all around the country, representing some of the world's most popular brands. I'm Graham Robb, and joining me today for our last episode before the Christmas break, we have Fraser Brown from the Richmondshire, North Yorkshire based Motorvise. Down the line, we have Nick Lane from the company TaperedPlus and Joe Garcia, who's Chief Executive for the Great North Air Ambulance Service, a fantastic charity in the north of England, and lots of businesses get involved in supporting it. So welcome to all. I'm going to start with the person in the studio, that's Fraser Brown. Fraser, you are looking after, in a consultancy service, lots of motor retail dealerships, and you also have a small motor retail outlet yourself. How is business after a lot of these announcements in the budget, particularly on electric vehicles?
So we all probably remember the interruption to our breakfast television with the Chancellor standing up there pouring doom and gloom into things. During that period, after she'd made that announcement, we got 5 cancellations. To put that in perspective, cancellations for vehicles, to put that in perspective, we hadn't had 5 all year. So the confidence that is there for people that are looking to spend money, whether that's businesses or the private individuals, was clearly massively undermined as a result of that huge amount of scare tactics that occurred prior to the budget actually being delivered.
Now it's been delivered. I sense, and I've been out in the business community quite a lot in the last week, that people are thinking, well, it was as bad as we thought, we've just got to get on with it now. And people are just getting on with it. Have you seen an uptick in people making inquiries to sell vehicles?
Yeah, let's be clear. The budget, from my perspective, there are various areas that I am concerned about. But ultimately, I think people can now get on. As a business community, we need certainty, we need some clarity, and we need to know what the kind of arena is that we're existing in. And all this period of delaying the budget and all that run up to it was certainly massively undermining business confidence. And I believe, having had the budget with as much pain as it was, we can probably get back to some degree of business as usual for a period of time until they come up with their next tricks.
Yeah, well, I know what you mean. But I tell you what, I want to drill down on some of the industry-specific issues that are coming about through regulation and the budget, because there are some very specific things in automotive, which after all employs 1 million people in this country. It's a very important industry. Another important industry is construction. Now, Nick Lane has an innovative product which has been developed by his business, which is TaperedPlus. And Nick, you're the head of design. Now, you're joining us from Wolverhampton, but the business is a northeast business. Tell us what TaperedPlus does before I ask you about the sector.
Yeah, correct. So our head office is in Stockton-on-Tees, and we've got the design office in Wolverhampton, where I'm based. We design tapered insulation solutions. So if you imagine a flat roof, we've got to get the water off in some way or form because water damages buildings. So we design and manufacture and supply bespoke tapered insulation systems. Effectively, draining flat roofs is our game. So yeah, we sell insulation solutions to bespoke buildings, to heat, drainage and thermal specifications.
I think of it like the space shuttle, where they have tiles to insulate the space shuttle, and the tiles keep the heat in rather than keep the heat out. And of course, you've got to drain the water off. Now, that's an innovative product. And of course, it really depends on the building and construction sector. And how is that at the moment in this economy?
Yeah, so over the last 12 months, it's been a little bit difficult. A flat to slightly negative growth over the last 12 months. We've seen product prices sort of stabilise, which is a good thing. We saw some big spikes in 2021, 2022, but over these last 12 months, they're sort of stabilised. But yeah, still a difficult market. But as we go into 2025, we're seeing a little bit of better client confidence, a better economic outlook, even after the budget was announced. So, we've seen some opportunities for growth into the next year.
The other interesting use of your product isn't actually in new buildings, but in sort of retrofitting. I own a building with a flat roof. I'd dearly love to have your product on. We've had an assessment, and it doesn't quite work because of next door, but that's another matter. But I can imagine that when people who own commercial buildings with flat roofs, they will realise that they need to retrofit because there's going to be EPC on commercial buildings soon.
Yeah, there are some changes to regulations coming up. There's a requirement for EPCs to increase as we go into sort of 2028. It means buildings are going to be unlettable unless they hit a certain EPC rating. So it's time to sort of act for some of these building owners now, because if they don't, that building's going to be unlettable at that time. So yeah, as the regulations change, it's an opportunity for us to sort of get involved and help our clients achieve those EPC ratings that they require.
Now, you design the tiles and the product, but you don't obviously install it, do you? You sell the product to contractors who use it.
Yeah, correct. So we work with a range of waterproofing partners, and therefore their contractors install the material. And we sort of work as a technical company that helps steer their clients towards the solutions they need. We sort of work as a middleman, as it were, for these partners. We bring technical expertise to the table. Is what we do.
Look, we know the most important thing about a roof is it doesn't leak, but are there any other standards for roofs, and what kind of standards would you like to see when it comes to roofing, particularly commercial roofing?
There's a bunch. We're talking about condensation control. We're talking about drainage and falls. Actually, at the moment in time, BS 6229, which is best practice for flat roofs, is being updated. We're hoping to see the update to happen at the end of this year, prior to Christmas. So with that landing, we hope it's going to resolve a lot of grey areas within the industry. We've had a lot of technical counterparts, including myself and my director, Rob Vass. We've been heavily involved in the update of the document. So I think it's going to be a really warmly welcomed document when it comes out.
Okay, we'll come back to you a little bit later. Let's hear from Joe Garcia from Great North Air Ambulance Service. Now, first of all, Joe, I should point out that you've got a special appeal on. Tell us what the nature of the appeal on. What's the reason for the appeal?
Right. First of all, thank you, Graham, for inviting us on, and thanks to Recognition PR for asking these valuable questions for us. So the appeal is our what we're calling it is our blueprint for the future, Operation SOS, Secure Our Service. And what this is about the Great North Air Ambulance Service returning to a 3-aircraft fleet of helicopters. We currently fly 2 every day, but the 2 aircraft that we've got are becoming increasingly financially unsustainable to keep flying. And I'll give you an example of that, Graham. In March this year, the aircraft that flies out of Teesside went off for a 600-hour service. That takes about 4 weeks. And they found a fault with a component called the main rotor mast. It's the bit that connects the blades to the gearbox. And we were only able to find a single serviceable part in the world, in the United States, and it cost us £181,000.
Oh, jeepers.
Aviation is a massively expensive business to be in, as I'm sure you know. And what that has prompted is for the trustees to challenge me with coming up with a strategy that takes us securely into the next decade and beyond. And in order to do that, we need to replace the helicopter fleet. In order to replace the helicopter fleet, through sound financial planning, we've been able to raise about £5 million already. We have £7 million of asset value in the two current helicopters that we fly, and we need to raise the deposit for the third aircraft. And that's what the capital appeal is about. And bearing in mind, it's a deposit for a mortgage. So we've still got £4.2 million of mortgage on each aircraft to pay as well. But what this will do is give the Great North Air Ambulance Service 3 state-of-the-art helicopters to secure the service of hope that we bring to the communities of the north of England, Northumberland, County Durham, Tyne and Wear, Tees Valley, Cumbria, North Yorkshire, Scottish Borders, even out to the Isle of Man, Graham.
Absolutely.
That's what Operation SOS is all about.
I hope I'll never need to use it. My daughter is a hospital doctor, and she tells me how often the helicopters land in her hospital, and I can tell from that testimony just how often it is used. This third chopper, then it's going to need a £2.5 million deposit, is what you're after.
Yes.
Are you on the way then? Has it started successfully?
Yeah, we're well on the way. We have already, through the wonderful generosity of the people of the north of England, we've already got 12% of that £2.5 million already received to us, and many more pledges on the way.
Now, I might say, because look, publicity is my game, as everyone listening and watching knows, and I work with you. I love your charity, and I have to say, you're very, very generous in giving credit where it's due. And I know if there are business people watching or listening to this in the Northeast, if you do help them out, they'll give you a lot of credit. That's true, isn't it? And go into the social reporting in annual reports too.
It's more than we can offer, more than credit, Graham. What we can bring is a partnership with organisations. We are specifically looking for increasing the number of partnerships that we have with commercial organisations where we can add value to what they are doing, because we bring a lot of skills. We bring precision. There's a lot of synergies between what we do in aviation and in our critical care medicine. And let's not lose sight of the fact, whilst we've been talking about helicopters, this is all about providing patients, the community of the north and northeast and northwest of England, with the hope that we bring when something happens that gives them the most critical time of their particular life. And that's what the community funds, and that's the service that we provide. As I said earlier, Graham, we provide hope. When you hear those helicopter blades coming into land, it's hope for someone that needs that care right there and then.
And one other thing to mention, I'm going to come back to you on more general things in a minute, Joe, but one other thing to mention, I gave some money to a charity this Christmas that dealt with homelessness and so on, and the charity reminded me, and I think people listening to you might want to be reminded, that if you are a top rate taxpayer, the one thing that didn't change in the budget and make things worse for you is the gift aid. You still will give more money as a result of giving to a registered charity through gift aid. You can make quite a lot if people gift aid, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. It's huge benefit for us if people are able to tick the gift aid box in their donation. Absolutely.
Well, I'd like to see that happen, because that would be something the government can spend money on that's genuinely worthwhile. Now let's pull back to Fraser, and just, we've heard a little bit of detail about the construction sector. I want to ask a bit of detail about the motor sector. There are two new issues that come together for the motor industry: the ZEV mandate, zero emission vehicles mandate, and the new tax on electric vehicles. And I was talking to somebody today, very senior in the motor industry, and pointed out that the government introduced a new tax for electric vehicles, which is 1.5 for hybrid and 3p a mile for electric. And the Office of Budget Responsibility said that will discourage about 300,000 to 400,000 people from buying electric vehicles. On the other hand, the government has maintained a very tough fines regime when it comes to manufacturers. At the moment, manufacturers have to deliver 100% electric vehicles by the end of 2030. And if they don't, everyone that's petrol over that, £12,000 fine. It's 33% next year, rising up to 80% in 29-30, and then zero. Now, what is your view on that? Have I explained that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So next year, a third of all vehicles registered have to be electric vehicles. And if they're not, the government will penalise the manufacturers extremely heavily. So this is the biggest frustration with this government. It's inconsistency. If we look at the Chinese, whether we love them or hate them, they have consistent industrial policy that goes back decades. Mm-hmm. With this government, we've got contradictions. On the one hand, they're trying to penalise manufacturers for not adopting EVs, so you've got to achieve this 33% next year, otherwise you end up with major fines. And on the other side, they're introducing a pence per mile charge. Now, I think we need to get this in perspective. The fuel duty escalator, which will come back in January of next year and will continue on an ongoing basis, putting up the price of petrol and diesel, will far outweigh for petrol and diesel car drivers the impact of 3 pence a mile on EV drivers. So if the 3 pence a mile on an EV driver is about £250 a year, you're already paying £600 a year in fuel duty for a petrol or diesel vehicle. So the impact on an EV driver it's negligible. It really is a drop in the ocean. An electric vehicle driver costs them between 1 and 3 pence per mile to drive their car for fuel if they have access to domestic overnight charging. It will cost between 11 and 17 pence per mile for your average petrol or diesel vehicles in fuel. So to be really, really clear, the opportunity for massive savings still exists for people who choose to adopt an EV, and there's no pence per mile charge between now and 2028. So you've got 3 years of really, really cheap driving.
Yeah, I can see all that, but I can also see that people have seen the headlines about pence per mile and be put off buying a vehicle, and that's what the Office of Budget Responsibility said. So if the government is going to change its policy in the way that it has on taxation of the vehicle, would you think it'd be fair that it maybe ameliorate its policy on the fining of manufacturers, maybe slow down the curve, maybe extend it to 2035 instead of 2030, give the manufacturers some breathing space to let the market catch up?
I don't think there's any chance of this government doing that. And this government's going to be in power right up until almost
29,
right up to a year before the deadline. It's not going to happen. They're quite belligerent on this. And whilst it may be sensible to do that, let's be really clear. This is a not a real market that we're in now. We're in a controlled market. We're probably controlled in the UK in terms of what car we can buy. They're rationing petrol and diesel cars more than the communist government in China.
Yes.
Okay.
It is crazy, and that's a true. I mean, I've talked to a dealer today. You have a smaller dealership which is very successful, but this person I was talking to today has multiple dealerships, and they feel very similarly. Let's look at some points about the electric pence per mile. It is a consultation, and I've got to say, this is a personal view. If I was writing, and I might actually write, anyone can write to the government if there's a consultation, I might say, well, look, hang on, firstly, if you have a hybrid car like I do, it's double taxation because I'm paying road tax anyway. Secondly, I might say, well, if you bought a car, it's retrospective taxation because when you bought it, you weren't told you were going to be taxed like that. And thirdly, the pence per mile for me, when you buy a car, you buy somewhere a vehicle that will give you freedom to go where you want, when you want. And a pence per mile, flat rate, basically says a rich person can have more freedom than someone who's not as wealthy.
Or you could say it's a government trying to control people.
You could.
At the end of the day, how they're going to measure this, the consultation is that it'll be measured by having an annual inspection for the first 3 years at a registered MOT station, and then the mileage will be recorded on the MOT database when you have your annual MOT from year 3 onwards. So this is a way of controlling and looking at people, and actually the higher mileage drivers will be penalised more than the lower mileage drivers, and anybody sensible that is a high mileage driver will already be in a hybrid or an electric vehicle at the moment. So I do want to throw one other thing in here, and that is that I think this government has also been very naive in the way it's implemented the additional business rates. for car dealerships, most of which that are franchise dealers will be over £500,000, we're going to get taxed as if we're an Amazon or a huge...
because it's regarded as a big shed, isn't it?
Effectively, we need the space because our product is large,
Yeah.
but we are not an Amazon. We're not a digital retailer.
Yeah.
They're trying to aim this tax at digital retailers, but the automotive industry is going to get absolutely hammered by this.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, and that's a real concern for me in the motor industry, as well as this inconsistent strategy from this government about how they want, one minute they want to get people to adopt EVs, and then on the flip side, like you said, the OBR are saying that the impact of their recent legislation or their proposal is that it will minimise or reduce adoption by just under 500,000. So this contradictory thing that we're getting from this government, let's be honest, it's a cash grab. It's a tax grab from wherever she can get it from, whether she's getting it from electric vehicles or putting the fuel duty escalator up with petrol and diesel vehicles. This unquestionably, from my perspective, it's just desperation and inconsistency.
Well, let's some of these points let's put out. Nick, do you drive an electric car?
I've got a hybrid, and of course, the yearly tax on my hybrid is quite high. I'm on the higher tax for it. So, with 2028 on the horizon and knowing I'll have to pay 1.5p per mile, as well as what I'm already paying, is a little bit frustrating. You know, I bought a hybrid to try and cut down on costs, and that's just been replaced by the pay per mile tax.
Yeah. Well, so you're not happy. My view, I'm as I say, I might write to the government, depending on whether I'll test it out on you and Fraser. I think that if you are going to tax electric and hybrid cars, you should use a metric that actually makes it fair for smaller cars and smaller users. So rather than pay per mile, I would stick with the principle of a flat rate, but have a flat rate that's lower for smaller cars, higher for mid-range cars and higher for top cars based on their weight. We base them on emissions for petrol and diesel. So weight, because it's about how much damage they do to the roads. Heavier cars do more damage than lighter cars. That's my two penneth worth. What do you think of that, Nick? Knock me down flat.
I've got a state, so I don't know where that would actually sit in the categories. If that sits in the lower category, then fine, great, that works for me. But
what did he say he owns?
Hybrid. I've got an estate.
Hybrid estate. I see. Yeah. All right. Okay. What do you think, Joe? I know I'm not going to draw you too much into politics because you run a charity, but what do you think about the electric vehicles?
I think it's clearly the system. Perhaps the consultation period needs to define what the right system is. I think one of the colleagues on the call said that how are you going to check the mileage in a vehicle that doesn't go in for an MOT for 3 years? It's going to have to be a special. So that's going to be a non-starter. I personally, I drive a petrol Mini, I'm still paying my tax in the normal way at the moment.
And it's an efficient car, a petrol Mini. It's solid as a rock as well. They don't go wrong.
It is solid as a rock.
They're pretty good. By the way, at the meeting I attended today, it was pointed out that the government have said that for the first 3 years they will pay MOT stations to carry out these checks. So they're actually going to be paying more than they're going to receive in the pence per mile. Probably it's an extraordinary thing. Well, look. Gents, it's been great talking to you all, and I wish you very best of luck with this fundraise, particularly around Christmas. It's a really good cause. Anyone who walks in the Yorkshire Dales knows that, and I do that a lot, and Siri, you do as well.
I saw the ambulance only last week, and I gave them a lift to where they were going.
Yeah.
It was
so the
amazing.
Best of luck. And look, Nick, you've got an innovative product. It's going to be in demand. People should watch it. It's TaperedPlus. Thanks for keeping us informed of what's happening, and I think the motor retail sector will have to take your advice on these rates because they are a serious thing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, with the end of our podcast for the year, we're back in January. Now, if you want to join us, I'm doing my rosters now for the new year for the Northern Business Podcast. Do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Use LinkedIn and get in touch with me, Graham Robb, or Recognition, and that would be great. Thanks to our podcast producer, Alex Dryden. I have to thank him extra because it's his last podcast before he goes to join the Royal Navy. We're very proud of him. He's going to get a proper role in life, serving king and country. Well done, Alex Dryden. And thanks also to our technical operator, Robin Campbell.